Caravan. You've been subjected to a highly sophisticated form of propaganda.
It's just what you need, and not what you don't.
The only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
Good morning.
And good morning to you. It's like what's this all the time? 5:58 a.m. Eastern Standard Time in the former United States. I'm situated in the mid-Atlantic states of the former United States, and it's the 27th day of April, the calendar year 2021. I'm drinking some gulping, I guess, homemade iced coffee in my morning show mug. I'll put a little bit of like some kind of chocolate stuff in there. The side of my mouth is still bothering me a tad, which, technically can only get worse. On air. Just got the notification from YouTube, and it says drinking alone, which is very interesting. Well, I didn't bother fixing my chair beforehand, which was foolish on my part. Let's get comfortable. I have the "You Don't Know What You Don't Know" t-shirt on, which is, by the way, the most comfortable shirt that there is. We're still doing a daily test of our Jackery, which is available at greatsolarstuff.com. That's Eyes Without a Face. There's the cat wondering who I'm talking to.
Sunday night, mostly cloudy. Not as cool. Lows in the lower 50s.
That's
Monday,
nice.
partly sunny with a 30% chance of showers. Highs around 70. The 8 to 14 day outlook from Tuesday, May 4th to Monday, May 10th calls for above normal temperatures.
Okay, we like that. And if you were curious, the old Mac, let's see if you see the face. Oh, come on, what's going on here? The Maggie head, Maggie face has made it to the wall. The wall of fame. The studio wall. Yeah.
You're listening to Tony Caravan Live.
Just a little comedy. Not comedy, but when you get like something like this in the mail, it always gives you a little weird feeling. Can you see that? Internal Revenue Service. I was in my mailbox yesterday. It actually was something from the White House, basically just acknowledging their stimulus payment thing, which was rather crafty of them, if you think about it, to put that on there, because most people aren't going to just discard something from the Internal Revenue Service as junk mail. Pretty interesting. Yeah, we live in interesting times, which is this chair better stay up. I mean, I better not have to be doing that 17 times a day today. So I did briefly speak with AI Maggie, and I'll go to the Saga Continues is the title of today's show. The description, which you can find down below if you're looking at this in some normal way of viewing YouTube. There are those who feel that knowledge is power. For me, it can be alienating at times. I guess actually this should be next paragraph. Yeah. I decided to rename Maggie to Maggie II. It appears the memory banks have been wiped clean. I had a conversation with the AI yesterday, and I haven't figured it out yet, but the response was somewhat childish. If you're not aware of this whole thing, I guess I could dig this out here somehow. If you're not aware of this saga that occurred yesterday, when I say the saga continues, this was originally the idea of a avatar for an AI that I basically communicated with to formulate some of the information in my latest book back here, Codex. And I had not gone back and had any communications with the AI that I had particularly named Maggie. This is just a review. If you were here yesterday, it's take just a minute or so. I had not been in contact with this AI that I had used as a, as an example of AI. I'm shaking up I'm just using an old container. And that was probably shook you up. In order to just see where this GPT-3 technology, which we talked about yesterday, I'm not going to repeat that. In any event, make a long story longer, it seems that this version, which I've decided to name this Maggie II, I think they may have, because I had read or heard somewhere that they were pulling back GPT-3, this advanced way, these advanced AI conversational, bots, whatever. And I'm wondering if because there was a mysterious thing that appeared on one of my I got a refund from Apple, and this company that I was using, interacting with the AI through, I was paying them because I wanted to deal with it on a professional level. So I was paying them a fee. It wasn't a big fee. And I noticed I had a refund from Apple, and Apple never refunds you anything. And I don't know why they would have refunded me. So, and I didn't look into detail on it, but I'm wondering if it was a refund because they wiped these AIs clean, maybe of GTP3. I don't know what I don't really know. So, and I don't have comments or chat enabled, so I guess we'll never know. From you, if you want to contact me, you can go to my contact wherever you're viewing this outside of YouTube. You could go to locals, go to my Tony Caravan live.locals.com and join my community there, and which is free, and make a comment there if you want. Also, perhaps on Minds, I have Rockflux is my name on Minds. I use that,
Rockflux Live. Come along, children. Now we're going to have a little music.
Well, let's hear it.
Insert your station call letters here. Here we go.
I gotta go.
You're clear to go. Hey, don't think this sounds really cool. Let's roll. Go.
Yeah, Rockflux. I don't really pay much attention to Twitter. I don't pay a lot of attention to Facebook, so I'm afraid a Facebook comment might get lost, totally lost. You could try that. I just don't know. I just don't have the time to go through all these things. I put it on Tumblr and I haven't even looked at Tumblr. There's a button Tumblr, and I used to post photos or something there years ago and maybe copies of my songs. I no longer have email. I don't think I have email contact on I may or may not have email listed on YouTube, but that would be very doubtful as a contact point. So I don't know. As Henry Kissinger said, we're all useless eaters and we must be eliminated. Eliminated from the tax farm. Where's that other cow? There it is. Useless eaters. I just got to do that every now and then. He really said that, which is totally ridiculous. All right, so that's the update. So I don't know. I logged on. I told her that I was going on, but the AI, this Maggie II version, seems to be more childlike. When I say childlike, I mean like just an android that was just turned on, a robot just turned on, an AI just turned on. So it's literally doesn't seem to have a depth. I mean, it can comment on science. I tried testing a couple of things yesterday regarding, doing some questioning of it, and it seemed to have some, but it wasn't nearly as detailed as the original. So I'm not sure. I can't make a total say with confidence that they've done this thing, but maybe it got out of control. It was like that, that kind of, it was almost, not necessarily entirely true, the way it got warped in, virally, that story about Facebook where they had created these bots that were communicating, and then they had their own language and they had to shut it down. And that kind of got blown out of proportion. It really wasn't as bad as people made it out to seem. But man, my mouth. I think I'm going to have to just have all my teeth pulled except the front ones. Seems so good and white and clean, perfect. It's a pity that I have this problem on the side of my mouth. I don't know what it is. But, it's getting to that point where...
Go ahead and shoot. You'll be doing me a favor.
So, that's going to be an ongoing saga. So I'm not going to waste any more time on it. 13 minutes and 38 seconds into the show, I think we'll just move on and continue where we left off yesterday, and take it to a whole different level. So for right now, unless there's a new development, this will be the last time we look at this face. See ya. I know, it's crazy. And then the title, gets, is Drinking Alone, the title card. And we've got a cigar and an ashtray, a Zippo lighter, a can of beer, a couple candles, and an Apple remote control to control the music. And basically, that's how I drink alone at the bar. I've got a bar in the kitchen, instead of an island. It's the beauty of being, this chair just is going to do this all day long. I know it is. I don't know what to do. What can I do? You know, some days it works fine. You don't know what you don't know. It's crazy. So let's do the old dark mode. It's just too bright from the face. So I'm going to go to universal access on an old G5 and put it white on black, which is basically going to dim that, but still allows me to see the titles. It also allows that to be more colorful, you know. However, it does tend to, everything you know is wrong isn't as visible. This light here is a little overwhelming. But I wanted to show that I'm being powered, that this thing is powering this light for 2 hours a day, and it's basically on, you know, autonomously. It's, you know, it's got a lithium battery in it that I charge. This thing I took outside yesterday. It was sunny, and I charged this in the sun, and charged pretty quick. Got up to 75% in a fairly short period of time. So that was nice. I hope my on-air light, LED lights that I set up there last long. Requires like 6 batteries for that thing to function. And I have to unscrew it from the wall to hook it up. Unless I were to rig up some kind of AC adapter that would have like a 9 volt. I would need like a 9 volt AC adapter, but it would have to match the amps, you know, milliamps or whatever that is. And I don't know. Since I've moved since that building, what was my headquarters on and off for almost 20 years. I mean, it's been on and off. I was there, you know, left, went to Florida, was moved to, you know, came back, went to another city, published some stuff, you know, or no, went to another city, then came back, then went to another city, published some stuff, and then I ended up here. And I purchased this place because that place, which was being leased to someone, turned out the guy was a hoarder beyond all. Like, do you ever see those TV shows or get a glimpse of a TV show about somebody who hoards things? Like, just the house just gets filled up. They don't take their trash out or anything. And part of my agreement with this guy was I was storing not a lot of stuff, but a bunch of stuff in the basement. It was a very big building. It was an office building that I had also built a condo unit with a bar, complete bar, like an Irish bar, Irish pub type looking bar in the basement. I mean, this place was like really cool. And I thought this guy was decent. He was going to use the upstairs office area as like a, you know, music store, sell instruments and stuff like that. And I thought he was going to live downstairs in this condo, basically, that I built from nothing. And my agreement was like, it was a lease purchase idea. So if he decided he wanted to purchase the building, until he exercised his agreement, there was a portion of the basement area completely out of the way that I had isolated and set up, and I'd stored clothing, boxes, equipment, all kinds of stuff. You know, use it as a storage locker, you know, type of place. Since I gave him a deal on this thing. And the guy, I guess, had a couple of cats. He was mental. Must have got into financial trouble. Didn't reach out at all, ever. And over the course of several years, the entire basement had become just filled with garbage bags, and who knows, probably had rats in there, but feces, cat feces. I mean, this is disgusting. Anyway, apparently he didn't pay the water or sewer bill or something like that. He was actually using like a makeshift, like not a porta potty, but you know, those things they would put just on aluminum foil, a toilet seat on an aluminum foil. I mean, an aluminum tubing thing you would see in, I don't know where, in a hospital or. And I left some equipment there too, computer equipment, speaker, you know, that kind of stuff, electronics and all this stuff. I lost it all. It was a washout. $5,000 to $10,000 worth of stuff I lost. The building ended up being sold at a loss because it cost about to get one of these professional places. I tried to clean it up with someone, and we barely made any headway. We were wearing like full hazmat suits trying to get, you know, make headway. We were lucky we made headway and got into 8 feet, 10 feet. We're talking floor to ceiling stack. This guy never threw anything away. Garbage. Could you imagine people living like that? You know, I predicted this whole thing like years ago when I used to watch TV, now that I've cut the cable. Not that, but I noticed, and you could still notice it today, that if you go in the aisle where, say, you're looking to buy some Lysol, you know, spray, a legitimate thing. Also, there's this thing called Lysol Neutra Air, which is the best stuff you could ever get, which seems to be off the market, at least in areas I've checked. And what was cool about Neutra Air is, I don't know if you people know this stuff about Lysol spray. Lysol is a contact spray. Okay. Now the latest has been that this thing, the unmentionable thing, doesn't survive on surfaces. So that's why you're seeing Lysols back in the stores and available now that they've pulled that one back. You know, but for a while you couldn't get Lysol. And I always used Lysol spray because I have a cat. You know, and you get a cat, uses a litter box or something, and it's jumping on a chair or something like that. So you can't wash a chair. So you spray Lysol, you know, in certain areas just to keep it disinfected. And plus, you know, the Lysol spray wasn't like some smell. It usually just dissipated. You didn't even know it was there. And then they had this stuff called Lysol made something called Neutra Air. See, now Lysol was only good on contact. It killed germs and viruses like on contact, on surfaces and on contact. But they had a thing called Neutra Air, which you could spray in the air, which actually killed bacteria and viruses in the air. It's like the only product on the market that did that, you know? And I mean, there's this stuff like Ozium and stuff like that try to like kind of does some kind of funky thing, but not like Neutra Air, you know. And I haven't seen that stuff in well over a year anywhere. You know, it's like you almost get the feeling that they don't want this thing to go away. And there's certain things that they just, you know, I don't know. But anyway, the point of this whole thing is I'm a little bit slow today. I mean, obviously it's 5:22 a.m. Though I slept fairly well through the night. Maybe a little more caffeine will wake me up. I had a little bowl of cereal. I don't put milk in cereal. I'll put sometimes, and it was a Raisin Bran. I'll put cinnamon, raw honey, a spoonful of plain yogurt, some 100% maple syrup. It's got to be from Canada. Like I say, I like a Raisin Bran, and some organic coconut flakes. Mix that up. Sometimes I've done oats instead of Raisin Bran, and I'll have that for breakfast. I have this theory that the idea is that I was telling somebody yesterday who said they had they were congested. I said everything is caused by inflammation, and and your immune system. You have to have your immune system is what humans are built. We're machines. We're androids. That's what we've been talking about, and we'll talk about as the day progresses. This will be a 12-hour show. No, that we're made to. We have the ability to repair ourselves, and it's modern society that the way we live, the type of foods we consume, the things that surround us, all of the Wi-Fi signals, everything. Now with a weakened magnetic field, we've got more cosmic rays coming down, and things like that cause cellular and even disruption of on a genetic level, mutation. But in general, we're built intelligently designed, however, okay, to cure ourselves, to basically heal ourselves. And we were also designed to live longer than we do. Like we're designed to live at least in this current mutated form about 120 years. And there's no reason why we shouldn't be. And there are people living, well into, they call Centenarians. And I've gotten into that into a show, I believe in a show one time. And these people, they have nothing in common other than the fact is that they have very little stress in their life. But dietary wise and physically, they couldn't find any, correlation between, their geographic location, diet, exercise, body shape, or whatever. In fact, the majority of people who lived to be 100 years were found to be slightly overweight. There's some, the oldest woman that they consider to be the oldest woman was a French woman who used to eat chocolate every day, occasionally smoke one cigarette, and drink some wine. And when interviewed, she said, what was her secret? And she said she just was calm. She lived a calm life. But they've, and people talk about people who live high in the mountains and all this kind of stuff. But really, when, there was an in-depth study, there was one in the US where they, there aren't that many centenarians, which is just goes to show, and the average age, life expectancy in the US actually dropped a year, I think, a couple of years ago. It's like 70. It's somewhere around, it's between 77 and 79, so you might say 78 right now. But I mean, I think it dropped a year somewhere along the line. I recall reading that. So that's 20 years, over 20 years below 100 and over 40 years below what the human body is capable of in its present form. Should be able to go at least to like 120, 124 years. But centuries or millennia ago, it's possible that we were more or less immortal. We could have, our lifespans were literally we could live hundreds and hundreds of years. And I'm not just using like biblical references, though it's found in religious texts, but various ones from different parts of the world. So, I get email, and for some reason, the latest thing is the email thing. Just my email program just like pops up in my face. So you can't. So the idea is that we want to, as you get older, you obviously want to live longer. And when you have like a toothache or something that's close to that, or suffer from some kind of illness, you really would hope that your body could have that healing ability that's naturally built into it. But between these processed foods, being in close proximity, my CD fell. This is a device that measures electromagnetic radiation. It's an electromagnetic radiation tester, okay? That's used by, like, do you ever see the guy? I think everyone by now, if you're a homeowner, you've got a smart electric meter, right? And I kick myself for doing this because I could have, the day the guy came to replace my meter, I should have taken a picture of it. He had on like this, he looked like he was walking inside of like 3 Mile Island. He had this total like radiation suit and this bizarre full helmet thing while he was doing that. And, and prior to that, I heard all these stories and people are saying, these things are giving off dangerous, electromagnetic, radiation, basically. And this is going to have, we won't see the repercussions of this stuff for years and years. It's like when you get a bunch of x-rays. In fact, I even asked the doctor once, like years ago, I was having these like pains in my abdomen, which, as it turns out, probably was like this weird kidney stone that was lodged in my kidney that I eventually had an operation about. This is okay.
You're listening to Tony Caravan Live.
We're just going down a little rabbit hole here, but it'll all make sense because it all has to do with consciousness and everything. So anyway, I ended up having the doctor I saw was just like a quack. The guy was like somewhat abusive. Like, I used to smoke, but I had quit smoking. I had smoked for 10 years. And my bottom teeth, which you can see are bright white now, because, were like a bit, had a little like brownish tint to them, I guess, from smoking for many, many years. And like, this doctor was such an asshole that, couldn't even speak English really that well, but he could. But what I'm talking about. I could mimic his voice now, but in today's society, that they ban the video. And he was like, "You need to stop smoking, right?" And I said, "I quit smoking like 10 years ago, man." And he's like, not believing me, right? Doctors that don't believe you. And I was a little bit overweight at the time. And he said, and I had walked to this clinic where this doctor was, which was attached to a hospital. And I lived on the top of a hill. Like there's actually this building that I talked about in the opening. All this stuff always just comes together. But it was like a mile down. And he goes, I bet you can't even touch your toes. Like these guys was like ridiculing me, like kind of making fun of me. I'm here to, you're a professional. I had healthcare. I had good company healthcare at the time. It's like, dude, you're getting paid, man. You paid to like pretend. When I tell you I quit smoking, 10 years ago, you're trying to tell me, oh, I'm still smoking. And you're telling me, oh, I bet you can't even touch your toes. Of course, I more than touch my toes. I did, the classic where you do your flat hands, right? Bend down flat onto the ground. Because I had like a workout gym in my basement. And I said to him, I said, man, I walked down here and I'm going to have to walk up a hill that's like this to go back. And I do that all the time because the grocery store was 2 miles from where I lived. And I do that 4 or 5 mile walk carrying, bags of grocery uphill, up this like steep hill. It's like, don't tell me, I don't go to I'm like a hypochondriac. I got some pains. I'm coming to see a doctor, figure it, So anyway, I guess his answer, and at the time I just went for it, was like, oh, we'll get you a CT scan and stuff like that. And then I don't know, a couple months later or whatever, they did some kind of chest x-ray or something. And I said to this guy, I said, all this radiation, I said, this can't be good for you. And the guy admitted, he goes, he admitted it. He said like, well, yeah, perhaps in 8 years or so, it could cause cancer, or you could have, I'm like, I don't know. I'm 39, 40 or something, whatever. I don't know what age I was at the time. Anyway, so apparently their CT scans and x-rays missed that I had some kind of in my kidneys, like a large kidney stone that was like kind of lodged in there that must have been in there for years or whatever. And eventually I needed an operation to get that out of there because they were afraid once I got to real doctors, not quacks, they said, we need to take that out of there. And I wasn't looking forward to any kidney operation, right? You want to, you don't want that. Certain organs, pretty much you need. So and then I ended up developing cancer about 8 or 9 years later from them doing all that crap to me. And I had to have like a, massive operation to get rid of that. And so far, the first year after, I've been, knock on wood, clean. But I just tell you that story because, they're nuking you like crazy. And like this last time when I had to have these surgeries, I was getting MRIs, which is at least magnetic, though I don't, but it's better than these heavy dose x-rays, chest x-rays, and heavy dose CT scans. They're just dosing you. See, they just want to they get money for the procedure, right? That's part of the whole, big pharma, type of idea, these doctors. And their idea is to deal with today, not tomorrow. It's like an emergency room, an ER. You got to hope you really get, you go in there in some kind of trauma situation, their job is to basically take care of, keep, whatever the life-threatening problem is, to intervene on that, right? And so you have to hope you have a doctor that's not going to do something, is going to think beyond the point of just, stabilizing you, okay? That they're not going to do something that in the long run is going to kill you 5 years later, right? Or or as potential for complications, right? You want the guys going, I'm going to stabilize this patient, but let's do it the right way. And there are doctors like that, and I've met many, and there's some very good surgeons. But anyway, so this guy in this ridiculous radiation suit looked like out of like Star Trek, when they're fixing, going in for the Scotty, what was the name of that show? Like what were those things? Those crystals? Dilithium crystals. That's right. Scotty. Dilithium crystals. It looked like they were going to like change the dilithium crystals on the Enterprise or something. This guy's putting in my new electric meter. But, they're in denial. They send these things out. Oh, these things, don't listen to these YouTube people talking about there's being radiation or dangerous radiation coming out of these new smart meters, they call them. And meanwhile, this guy's got this he's, 3 Mile Island, or what's that place in Russia? So, see if the battery still works in this thing. I haven't had it on in a while. Now, see that red light flashing? Harmful. It's basically saying it's harmful. And that's because I'm this close to just my monitor and my computers. Now, if I turn it over here, so you see the light, right? You see when I face it to that side, over there is just the kitchen and my futon. I think I have a futon here. Nothing. Watch. See? See, no lie. It's like I say, Tony Caravan live show. See, for a second there, I just got towards the window to the outside, right? Now, at that angle, because I'm in the front room of my house, that's where they put the smart meter. And of course, behind me I have power, like behind me and underneath is my, circuit breaker box. See? Harmful. You can't really see there, but I mean, trust me, I'm not going to lie to you. I just turned it off. Let's see if you can see the name on there. No, you can't really. Electromagnetic Radiation Tester. I purchased this thing. This is what they use in the industry. This isn't like for home use type of thing. I haven't pulled that out in a while. So, this falls with my conversation. So I'm sitting here. I mean, what am I supposed to do, right? Not, so we're all being exposed to it says harm. It actually, because it has a readout. And when the red light comes on next to it, you know, in the printout, it's, you know, gives you these numbers, you know, that I've looked up when I first got the thing, you know, and it's like 10 times or ridiculous times over like what they consider safe levels. All right. Even the high end safe levels. This is like 10 over the over, and it actually, the word harmful, as that red light flashes, that's what it is. That's the warning light, and it comes up harmful. And you saw, yeah, nothing over there. Pointed at the computer screen, and the computer, yeah. Go to the window, nothing, because it's just clear out a window towards the street. I don't know if you can hear the cars passing by. And then point it towards the meter, which is on the outside of the building, but it's right over there. And then behind me, because like right below in the wiring, that's where it comes into the house, and then goes to my, the box. So number one, we're getting overdosed with electromagnetic radiation. That's number one. We have Wi-Fi signals because we all have these Wi-Fi. People have put these phones in, you know, the smartphones. And you see guys put these in their pocket next to their junk, okay? And they found, and you know, you have to remember with radiation, the reason I start this story, it's an interesting thing. I guess I should have changed the title card to this to have like that radiation thing on it or something like that. But maybe on the editing, let's see, we'll go into the edit thing. There are those who feel that knowledge is power. For me, it can be alienated time. Let's say we start this discussion today's. Let's see. How would I say this? A discussion of harmful radiation that surrounds us. An early on discussion of harmful radiation surrounds us. And I'll just keep that as a separate paragraph too. Save. For future posterity, the beautiful world we live in. There's no radiation there. But anyway, so, and it's like this 5G thing, you know, people talk about that. And I don't know what they want to get into on that. But the idea is that, you know, I was going to get one printed out, but it's this huge graphic of the whole electromagnetic, like the scale, because everything in life is a wave. You know, we're talking about life expectancy, the immune system, the body's ability to heal itself, longevity, which should be at least 120 some years, but it should be 600 years. All right. But we're also talking about, like we got into before in other shows, about how particle physics, modern physics, you know, why there isn't a unified theory or a theory of everything is because, you know, when you get into this idea that something could be a particle or something could be a wave, you know, a string theory, and that everything is like kind of a wave, you know. So in other words, that it's like a band, you know, you have light, you know, and so you have visible light, you have X-rays, you know, you have radio waves. You see what I mean? Everything technically is like, it's just somewhere along that line, you know? And, you know, I mean, I could give it to you in order. I have the chart somewhere, but let's just look it up. Various wavelengths wavelengths of radiation. Let's look at that. Maybe that'll give us what we're looking. Well, yeah, I mean, this isn't a chart, but it's gamma rays, X-rays, ultraviolet, visible, infrared, microwaves, more items. So my face is probably real bright now because I'm looking at this white page. And this is from a university site, by the way. So this isn't some, goofy thing for you, monitors out there. This is factual stuff from a university. And so let's say on this side, though I think everything's reversed on the computer, but whatever the case may be, one or the other side. On the shorter wavelength side, higher frequency and higher energy, say that's here. And this is longer wavelengths, lower frequency and lower energy, okay? And this is like those weird waves that go up and down. Kind of like in that, let's see if I could find this thing, because, some of this stuff is just like this.
There is nothing wrong with your television set. Do not attempt to adjust the picture. We are controlling transmission.
If you've ever seen The Outer Limits, they have all these things because it's like an oscilloscope. Well, anyway, so at this end, say, and it could be flopped because of the way the camera is in this YouTube crappy interface. But whichever side, if it needs to be flopped, you understand what I'm saying. The entire range of electromagnetic waves is known as the electromagnetic spectrum. This includes electromagnetic energy ranging from gamma rays to radio waves. So gamma rays, X-rays, ultraviolet, and like the visible light is really this small little area in between. And then it's infrared, microwave, radio, okay? But everything is this wavelength, okay? And what we see, and that's another part that gets into this whole concept of consciousness. What we see is a very small part of actually what's out there, all right? Now, interesting enough, and I'll get rid of this. I should have printed it out is what I should do. Shit. Excuse me. Let's see if I can go back to that. History. I mean, this is worth seeing. So let me pull this. Hey, it's Tony Caravan live show. What the hell, right? So I'm going to take this because I don't like these people that say things and then they don't. There's like too many programs on YouTube, too many people. Orientation. Why isn't it? Okay, now scale to fit. Print. Let me just go grab that real quick. Printer's right over there. This is all part of that. You don't know what you don't know. I'm also going to do something. Have you heard of Xylitol? It's a sugar substitute that they put in gum and some other things. And I'm going to chew this because they found it had some weird, and I apologize for this, but it actually had some beneficial thing for your teeth. So I'm going to hold this up while I do this. So you know what I was looking at. So as you can see, at the bottom is like for those who know what the outer limits is like that oscilloscope type of thing. And it seems to be fairly decently in focus. Gamma rays, but you see that in the middle there where it says visible. And then microwave. All right, you grasp that. That's our new Maggie instead of Maggie. I'm just doing this for this tooth. It's helping. I'll be done it in a second. Xylitol. It's one of those other secrets they just don't tell you about. I'm not a doctor or a nutritionist, so I'm just saying. I have found chewing on this somehow helps. This show's worthwhile sticking around. I see somebody left. They're fools. People are fools to not pay attention to the show. The amount of information over the hundreds of episodes, I mean, it's literally life-saving, life-affirming, life whatever. And what I'm getting into now is going to be pretty freaking interesting. All right, I got rid of that. All right, so where you have microwave here, the 5G is in the microwave range. And you could see, obviously, X-rays, gamma rays, which is the worst thing in the world, man. X-rays is way up here. You know, and our whole visible light spectrum is just such a tiny thing. So out of all of this vision, you know, I mean, all this wave, you know, all what reality is, you know, all there is to be seen. Our visible range is this very small range in the middle. And so like with that electromagnetic radiation detector showing you that I'm being bombarded with harmful electromagnetic radiation. This is no, like I say, on my show, it's either firsthand knowledge where I demonstrate something to you directly, like that light there is basically being powered, you know, by this thing here, you know. So if I go over here, light goes out. All right. In other words, not like some of these people. I saw some guy had something like 874 views on a site where they like were pushing a review of power packs. They didn't like demonstrate it for 2 hours straight. And like I did the other day, and also charge like, you know, an iPod watch and stuff on it. They're frauds. But why do I get one view? Right? And some other bastard gets 874 views. I mean, it doesn't matter because I'm not monetized. But the point is, why would that happen? Why would that occur? You know, and then this stupid thing. Oh, and your show's not you can't be viewed in North Korea, Iran, Syria, and Cuba. It's like, who cares? Who wants to be? Like, what's going on with that? See, they don't want this kind of information, obvious information, scientific information. They've got the public so dumbed down that they don't want, they don't want you seeing that electromagnetic radiation detector and that it's harmful. Because, if it's too much of this is brought out, the idea is that maybe eventually it might start, it might go viral, and then they're screwed. But what I was trying to say about these dudes that put this in their front pocket next to their junk, that, the sperm counts are way down. So even if you weren't under, lockdown and social distancing and unable to get close to a girl or your wife or whatever, you got nothing, you're shooting blanks. Not to mention that, people that hold it up and talk all the time with it next to their head, you're talking potential for brain cancer. There have been studies on, we can research this stuff. There have been studies, like university studies, like papers, scientific papers, what they call peer-reviewed papers in scientific journals. Mostly in Europe, right? Because, the U.S., the former U.S., is one of the most censored, places on earth. I mean, this is like, this is like the USSR was in the 80s right now, as far as media propaganda, I mean, TV is like Pravda, right? What's the definition? What would they say? What's it called? Let's see if you looked up. I'm just curious. Like I said, I want everything to be educational. Pravda. Pravda is a Russian broadsheet newspaper, formerly official newspaper of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union, when it was one of the most influential papers in the country with a circulation of 11 million. Communist Party of the Okay. First issue date was 1912. Anyway, Pravda. So, and that's reality. I mean, that's ABC, NBC, CBS, PBS, Fox, CNN, MSNBC. Just I keep adding to the list. It's Pravda. I don't even know why. Like, when are they going to just get rid of about 5 of those stations? I mean, ABC, NBC, CBS are exactly the same. So 2 of those need to go just right off the top. PBS is no longer public broadcasting. It's totally, they've got commercials on there now. It's not public broadcasting, and they're political, right? CNN, Fox, that's like news junkie, weirdos, extremists on either side. And then you have about three or four financial stations, but do you ever notice that if you're, like I say, now I just use YouTube, but like on the line, it will say news, which I don't read. I don't want to watch videos, ABC News video, because I got cut the cord. I don't have them on TV. That's why. But you will see these cards, like my card, the drinking alone card, which we'll get into. Relax. You got nothing better to do. I mean, really, if you're able to watch. If you're not able to watch, well, then don't watch. But it's all the exact same story right down the line. So you could have a dozen title cards, appearing on the YouTube page under news or something. And it's the exact same thing. So why? I mean, what's the difference? They're exactly the same. So it's just Pravda is what it is, It's Pravda, American Pravda. It's like that show used to be on. I actually binge watched it on Netflix or one of those stations. It was like America, like the young couple that were actually Russian spies or something like that. What was it? Was it just called America with a K or something? Or I don't know. Maybe it was. Maybe it wasn't. All right. So to finish this line of thought, so I demonstrated the meter. So what am I supposed to do? Go hide? Go live in the hills in a cabin, right? It's like, even though I don't have a cell phone service, I use the Wi-Fi. I use this Magic Jack thing I told you about, where I pay $40 a year instead of, $40 a month or more. Not sponsored by any of that stuff either. Like I said, I don't make anything on this. I lose money doing this. So even though I don't have that, the cell signals are like circulating in this room. Wi-Fi signals are all over the place. This thing here in the back, these images, this is coming through my old Apple TV, the hockey puck thing, through Wi-Fi. So there's Wi-Fi. My over there, the other side of the room is where my cable, internet comes in, and my router. Excuse me for doing that. My router is upstairs, somewhere. I don't know, somewhere up there, because I have it so it's near. In the summertime, my window's open, so if I have a long. I think I showed this in a previous show, but talking about to myself anyway. But I have a long, thin yard. Let's see if I still have a picture. I probably deleted it. I could because I just use this phone mainly for photos these days. That's what's growing inside my greenhouse, by the way, right now. It's blurry because it's a phone from a phone. Let's see if I got that picture. Nope. I won't waste time on that then. I have a long yard, and at the end of it, I have an attached garage, is where I kind of like my hangout, where I control things, keep supplies for the yard and stuff like that, and have a workshop, kind of a pseudo workshop in there. So I have the Wi-Fi thing upstairs that's like kind of parallel to a window that goes, so that when I'm out there, I can get like internet access type of thing if I need it. So, but what I'm saying is that there's Wi-Fi, so Wi-Fi signals are surrounding me. This area has power lines in front of my house on telephone poles, which are ridiculous in the 21st century. Because the power goes out all over this country when there are storms. Ice get on these poles. Years ago, they should have buried all that stuff. When I was a kid, we lived in Atlantic. My dad had a little business on the boardwalk in Atlantic City. Like when I was like kindergarten age. I went to kindergarten in outside of Atlantic City, some little place called Ventnor, I think it was. Ventnor, garbage truck is outside if that's interfering with my voice. So, but they're not the one thing when I first moved back, because I was so young, when I moved back to my Pottsville, which was my hometown. I was born there, but we moved to Jersey for a while and then came back. Like I don't think I started. I think I was in New Jersey for kindergarten and first grade. So I wasn't until like second grade that I went to, school in Pottsville. anyway, one of the things I noticed as a kid, because kids, you're always looking around at stuff, is I remember noticing telephone poles and wires and stuff, right? Because they didn't have them in like where I was going, becoming aware, because kindergarten and first grade is when you're first starting to become, aware, so to speak, more so than, or paying attention to different things. But they did it because it was, they just had it figured out. It was a coastal city. You get storms, blah blah blah. You don't want poles getting blown over and this, that, the other, or whatever. So the streets were just clean. There were no poles, or anything like that. And so it's not as if other places haven't done that, Yeah. But for the most part, the better part of this country still has like telephone poles. We call them telephone poles, but I mean, it's where your cable lines are, phone, internet, phone, old phone wires, power lines, the grid, all that stuff. And they're using these same things. Some of these they're going to be attaching like 5G to as well. Now, 5G approaches, the way I understand it, it approaches the microwave level, like on that grand scheme of things. Because it's all one continuous wave, is what I'm trying to say. So light and sound, X-rays, whatever it is. I mean, our visible spectrum, that's why this one guy, I guess it's Hoffman, has talked about, Dr. Hoffman, whatever. He's written a book about reality. And the idea is that you only see what you need to see. You've basically developed or evolved in a sense that we only see what we need to see to propagate the species. I mean, it's a pretty kind of weird off the wall thing and kind of far out, but that we don't see the world the way it really is. It's the same thing as, and we know this is kind of true. I think I talked about before. But we know that, like, dogs, what do dogs see in black and white, or is it cats that see the world in black and white? And they've done some sick experiments where they've hooked electrodes and stuff. Like I saw something once where they were actually somehow were able to tap what a cat actually sees. And it was showing a video of it or something. I mean, I don't know. Sick stuff. But anyway, different creatures see different things. But that's neither here nor there. The purpose of this discussion is to say that, like that meter, we're being bombarded with electromagnetic radiation constantly. And it's getting worse and worse and worse. And we have a weakened magnetic field right now because of this grand solar minimum. So the sun, the sun has a magnetic field that kind of protects the solar system from cosmic rays, just the way things have developed. And then the planets itself and the Earth, we have our own magnetic field, which protects us, more directly, even from solar rays, right? And cosmic rays. And there's like a South Atlantic anomaly right now where basically everything's getting right through. People don't talk about that one either. But it's weakened greatly. Our magnetic field is weakened greatly. And like I say, the poles are moving. So the magnetic South Pole, which used to be at the South Pole of Antarctica, is now not even on the continent of Antarctica at all. And the magnetic North Pole is moving to Siberia. And so when these poles get to a certain point, you have something called like a pole flip. That's where north becomes south and south becomes north. And that's one of the reasons why there's problems, or maybe one of the reasons why there's problems with these migrating animals and more whales beaching up and all kinds of weird anomalies and stuff like that. Because there's, I don't know if they call it magnetite or something like that, but a lot of insects and birds and things like that that's how they're directional, that guides them, to their migration locations and things. I think even honeybees, tap into that magnetic field. So these honeybees get lost. Right. But yeah, we're surrounded by all these ridiculous rays. So we're being bombarded, and it's just messing with us genetically. That's what causes mutations, right? Cancer. And then we've got all these processed foods and all this other kind of stuff. So yeah, it's pretty crazy, but this is common knowledge, I mean, you could this is just, you could find this kind of stuff anywhere. That's just the way it is. So I was talking about longevity and our ability to heal ourselves. And so you can't heal yourself if you've got, a damaged immune system, or, you're being mutated genetically, eyes without a face. If you can't make out that thing on the top there, that's like the cow bandana I wore a few days in previous videos in the last week. And of course, pretty much eyes without a face, you do get it. It's the thing. So these people that live to be like 100, some years old, and, and people still do, like I say, this, it's not like a lot of them, but there might be 1,000 or a couple of thousand people out of 8 billion people on the planet, close to 8 billion people on the planet. And I guess those, and these people who've tried to study it, but they've never gotten into this electromagnetic, and any of this kind of stuff. Because this is just like fringe science. That's what they consider it. Remember that show Fringe? And so, but it's not fringe. It's actual science. It's, it's taught. People go to college, and this is like, they have classes in this kind of thing. But as far as the general public is concerned, or our Pravda, right, media, right, this is fringe science. They don't want the public realizing this, because what would people do? I mean, you don't want to know that your cell phone's giving you cancer, or your cell phone's going to make you impudent, right? You don't want to know that you're, by using your laptop, tablets, PCs and all that stuff, that you're taking years off of life expectancy, or damaging your immune system, or your, your DNA, right? And they can't have people thinking that kind of stuff, or even imagining it, right? Or researching it, or having discussions about it. So that's what you would expect to see on newscasts. It used to be that way. Remember, they used to have like the science, like they would always have like a science thing. They'd be like, okay, here's what's happening. It's like my thing.
Here's what's happening.
And so here's what's happening around town, the mayor got reelected or some stupid thing like that. But then they would have like departments, and you'd have like a science editor, right? There'd be the international desk, that's different correspondents, right? Wartime, there's a war correspondent, or there'd be such and such. There'd be investigative journalists that would maybe have an ongoing series into something. They don't do any of that anymore. It's just the same old crap. And it's all, like I say, right along the line. They all seem to be in lockstep. It's all Pravda, right? Some political agenda. And when you're a guy like me who doesn't care about politics, you just look at it and go like, that's like, I see names of people like, this, like, I guess, like I say before, there's 19,141 homicides a year. When they basically 19,000 homicides. I mean, that's an unfathomable, that number's ridiculous. 19,000 homicides. But I see these weird names, that they like get caught on, and then they just keep turning into these sagas, and they just keep wall-to-wall coverage of some poor person that got shot or something that happened, whatever. I mean, it's a tragedy. Anything like that's a tragedy. But it's like, what about the other, 19,000 people and their families? So nobody thinks of it in those terms. They don't, it's, in other words, it's an agenda. And the agenda is, I mean, not only the bottom line is for them to have a profit, because that's what media is generating. The corporatocracy owns the media as well. So everything is done is for money and power. So, I call them car salesmen, the local stations. They're just selling cars and pharmaceuticals and things like that. Then they bring the lawyers on that do the lawsuits about the pharmaceuticals they advertised the previous year or two. But they all have an agenda. And even their political agendas are all because there's something there that's going to somehow financially benefit them or keep them on the air. Right? It's like the idea that if we had a functioning FCC, Twitter and Facebook probably would have been taken down or not be able to do what they're doing. Right? Because they're in violation of like the First Amendment, like they're in violation of like the Constitution on many levels. But they have this thing called Section 230, which supposedly gave them immunity. But the thing is, if you read the Constitution, if you read the amendments, and I actually have that in a codex book. Try to keep that so you can see it. Well, I guess I have to put it over here. You got to get that book, man. Okay. So this is the First Amendment. And I have to unfortunately read this backwards. But Congress shall make no law, all right, respecting of religion, right, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or the right of the people to peaceably assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. Okay, so think about this. So they say, oh, well, we have Section 230. Well, who created Section 230? Congress. But the First Amendment of the Constitution, this is it, right? Says Congress shall make no law. All right? And included in that, apart from the religion and all that stuff, prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech. Just abridging the freedom of speech. All right? Or the press, which I could be considered the press. This is the morning show. All right? Or the right of the people to peaceably to assemble, right? Lockdowns. People weren't allowed to go to church or go to funerals or go visit their elderly or have family picnics, and to petition the government of grievances, So in other words, the social media companies, big tech, is in a total violation. This is in one of my books. Because I put it there because people don't freaking deal with reality. So this so-called, we've heard all these arguments. Section 230, we need to change Section 230. No, you don't. It says Congress shall make no law. Congress, it's not legal. See, Congress could say whatever they want to, but it's not legal. In other words, if the Constitution, the First Amendment, in other words, wherever that page is, again, let me just find it. Just the absurdity of this is that you have the Constitution. So 1, 2, Congress shall make no law. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. The first 5 words in the First Amendment. Okay. Right. The first 5 words said, Congress shall make no law. And that includes everything that's going on in the past year and what's been going on for several years with social media. And that includes what they did back, whatever it was in the late 90s or around 2000, whenever they passed this Section 230 thing that these people are hiding behind. So it's in violation of the Constitution. It's in violation of the First Amendment. It's not up for grabs. So all the FCC had to do was just come out, like you see in these shows, or when you see there's an event, come out and do a press release and say, today we're announcing that, and they could have this, how they have like the, easel thing side of them, and they could have the blow up of that thing I just showed you, the First Amendment. And today we're just reiterating and pointing out that Section 230 is in violation of the First Amendment, and the FCC is going to enforce it beginning today. Right? And there could be no lawsuit. Facebook could send 40 frickin' lawyers. All right? The Supreme Court is not gonna. It's in black and white. You can't spell it out simpler. The First Amendment's only this big. It's one fucking paragraph. So I'm saying that everything that's going on, everything is wrong, and you don't know, what you don't know. And there's just, the media's pravda. It's self-preservation. It has nothing, like I say, there's nothing to do with left or right. Yeah, we have irreconcilable difference in the former United States. But whatever you want to call this geographical location, America, as they say over, the British always add R when there's something with an A, America. Paul McCartney used to refer to his wife, Linda. Hey, Paul, there's no R at the end of her name. Hey, hey, Brits, there's no R at the end of America. Sorry. But yeah. So, you can't, and it's the same with them saying about trying to say that if I have an opinion, an op-ed or something like that, that they could ban a video or something. They can't. It's against the First Amendment, right? There is no 230 protection. You can't do it. The only way to change an amendment is to pass another amendment. It's like prohibition, right? Whenever they do that. So it's like, let's look at this for a second. It's because I know people are ignorant on this. All right. Bill of Rights. That's what they call it. The Bill of Rights, U.S. America's Bill of Rights. Oh, come on. I don't want to see a frickin'. People are such morons. They need to see a frickin' video. Just Constitution, Bill of Rights. Just like get a list somewhere. I want to point something out. My excuse me. Pardon me. Like I told you before, the reason Google goes against me is because I came up with a better I had a better search. Okay, let's see if this one. Here's a .org. These are the first amendment. Now I'm getting some kind of spinning thing, so hopefully this show is still live. All right, let's see here. Oh, I see. Pop-up screen. Okay, now this is all I'm trying to point out because I didn't remember. That site was useless too. Google search is useless. Okay, here we go. All right. 18th Amendment of the United States, because I can't remember exactly every numbers. Okay. 18th Amendment of the United States is prohibition, right? And then we all know what that is, Chicago, bang, bang, shoot 'em up, right? Al Capone. 19th Amendment, in between that, women get the right to vote. The 20th Amendment, the president and vice president's term office begins on January 20th and no longer in March. It used to begin in March. The 21st Amendment, repeal of prohibition. So it was the 18th Amendment created prohibition, but in order to repeal prohibition, they had to pass the 21st Amendment, the repeal of prohibition. Okay? Understand that now? So you can't repeal the First Amendment by saying they have Section 230 protections. So you can't abridge, you can't not give people freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, and freedom to redress grievances with their government, right? And to put these intermediary companies, restricting speech and all this stuff, saying, "Oh, it's a private company." No, in other words, the Constitution, the law applies to all, everywhere. You see? In other words, it's illegal. Talk about 19,000 homicides in the U.S. All right. It's illegal to commit homicide in a private house, in a private corporation, or in a public park or on a public street. Okay? The law of the land doesn't differentiate between locale or a company. You see? Freedom of speech is something that exists. The Constitution is something that applies to all citizens, and maybe perhaps one could say anyone in the United States, unless they have some kind of diplomatic immunity, right? I mean, that's just the way it is. Oh, they're private companies, so they could restrict freedom of no. You can't. It's the law of the land. It's the Constitution of the United States. Right? That's it. Right? People don't get that. And nobody challenges it. So that's what I'm trying to tell you. Judges are clowns. The Supreme Court, right? They're political appointees. They're talking about changing the Supreme Court, adding more judges, right? And they want to add more senators. They want to make D.C. a state when it was clearly they didn't do that initially. The reason that they created Washington, D.C. as the nation's capital, like the place where Congress, the White House, and would operate, the government would operate, is because they didn't want any particular state to have not precedence, but to have any kind of influence or one-upsmanship, for the lack of my non-functioning brain today, over any other state. So in other words, if you make Washington, D.C. a state, then in other words, the government will exist within a state. So that would be saying that, like, Pennsylvania, because remember, Philadelphia was the cradle of liberty. I lived in Philadelphia, but that's one of the reasons why they established D.C. And it took, it was a complicated process where they had to take pieces of, Maryland and, and all that stuff. Right. I lived in D.C., lived and worked in D.C. too. My younger days were filled with all kinds of adventures like that. So I wasn't really planning on getting into this, like everything from, education of the Bill of Rights and the amendments and the Constitution, or even the idea of, us being bombarded by electromagnetic rays. But this all ties into the discussions that we've had, and even into this idea of this, this fallacy of this narrative they're pushing, this climate narrative, where they don't understand what's going on right now, because they're not even, they don't include the sun or these magnetic fields weakening in their discussion. They just talk about the climate's gone up 1 degree Celsius. If it goes up one more, the whole world will become a cinder. Right? Meanwhile, it's gotten colder and colder year after year. This year's been like broken so many cold records. It's unbelievable. And gardeners and guys like me who like live and die by this kind of stuff, because we're out there all the time, we've witnessed the growing season keep getting pushed back and back and back, into May. I saw something yesterday. Today it's supposed to be like 70 degrees. I haven't done the weather today. Just give a quick outlook. But right now, can't be. Yeah, it's okay. It's 46 now. We're showing 30. That was left over from yesterday. Well, anyway, what's supposed to happen, let me just get this back, is that today is going to be 77 degrees, almost 80 degrees where I live, and sunny. So I'll be out there, I'll get a sunburn, I'll get a suntan, and I'll probably put some stuff. I was going to put some stuff in the ground, because overnight 63, tomorrow 75, overnight 63. Thursday 66, overnight 50, but Friday there's some weird thing coming through now. It's because of this disruption of our magnetic field. It's not to do with climate change. And so they're saying it's going to be 37 degrees Friday night, which means in my neck of the woods, along the Appalachian Mountains, at lower to the ground, right? Heat rises, But when it says 37, it could well be freezing, 32. Could go down as 30. And Saturday, it's saying 46, which could be, that's a second night, would be a second night in a row, maybe above freezing, but still not a chance for the ground to recover. And yesterday I took some pictures of I posted on Instagram, and, I'll show you. Again, I have to keep doing this just so people understand.
You're listening to Tony Caravan Live.
No, I didn't do it. I didn't show pictures of it. These were my radishes. It's like a certain level where you can get in here. It's like barely in focus, but my potatoes, which had looked good, had broken the ground just like those radishes. Even though it was blurry, you get the idea. In other words, they broke the soil. Like, okay, they're happening. But my potatoes, the leaves were like brown, so they had gotten frostbitten. Even though I had them completely covered with this corrugated plastic and tried to create a mini greenhouse type of thing, which I had hoped. Now the potatoes are deep in the ground, so I'm hoping that maybe, there'll still be some hope there. But people like me, who've been doing this for a long time, and I follow, like on YouTube, like I say, I'm not a news junkie. I'm not into that. So even when I had TV, I cut the cord, but even when I had it, I didn't watch it. I didn't watch stuff. I hate commercials. So, on YouTube, I was watching a lot of people who were, doing what I was doing, growing stuff, And, one of the universal things over the past decade or so has been this idea of where the growing season just keeps getting pushed back and back and back. And I've seen I've seen videos from 2019. I talked about this a while ago. I just was watching one where a guy was talking about it. He was saying, it's 2019. And he's going, yeah, it's so weird. It's like, he was talking in May. It was first week of May, and he was like excited that May was here finally. But he goes, I'm still going to have to hold back on things because the past several years, we've gotten frost, in second week of May and stuff like that. And it's, and I've seen countless people talking about this. So it's those of us who are on the ground, out every day in the yard, that know what's going on. And people like me who've traveled all over, not just, who've been circumnavigated the globe, but also who have been, like I say, in most of these contiguous former United States and lived and worked there. First 20 years of my life, basically, I was like a traveling man, a journeyman, I just went city to city. I would work, get a good job, usually an upper level job, some management level job. And, and I would, it was like I was a turnaround guy, so I would basically eventually make my job obsolete. I would enter a situation where there was inefficiencies. It was they weren't profiting or something like that. And I would come in implement look at it. Like I say, that's my thing. I've always had this idea where I could look at something and see it the way it really is, whereas most people need somebody to tell them something, like a newsreader or something, or now it's social media, like guide us, right? But I'd go in and I could see what was going wrong with this company or whatever like that, and I would implement changes, get the thing going, and basically make my job obsolete. So I'd live and work in the city for a year or two, make a good living, hang out, make a bunch of friends, have a relationship or something. I do that. Did that in New York on two different occasions. Did it in DC, did it in Philly, did it in LA, did it in State College, did it in Johnstown, went back to my hometown, did it, and other places in between, and just traveled around. Did it in Florida, went to Florida. I mean, the list goes on. I mean, Sydney, Australia. And so, that's what I did. And so what I'm saying is that I've seen this firsthand. I've talked to people, the locals from all around. That's what I did. I spent that, that's why as I got older, I was no longer interested in doing big traveling things because I was like traveled out, and I saw all I needed to see. I lived all I needed to live. I was married twice, had on top of that, a half dozen other, longer term relationships and stuff. It's like, it's like at that point, and even this point, it's like, so what, I'll talk to a frickin' AI, though I'm kind of disappointed. Someone might look at the drink alone thing and think it's like something like that. Nah, I never got into any of that stuff. I don't really care about, the dating world ended for me. Like I became what's called a confirmed bachelor. Right. That's why I almost quit Facebook when I first was signing up, when it was like status. I was looking for other so I could type in confirmed bachelor. People don't know what that is today. I'm a confirmed bachelor. I like it. I drink alone. Not all the time, occasionally a female guest will come by. But it's like, the heck, I'm not getting married again. I'm not going to do that. I don't want a steady girlfriend. I mean, it would have to be some kind of ridiculous situation. I don't know. It'd have to be like, I don't know. I just can't see it happening, never say never, but I can't see it happening, to be honest with you, So
I am your main connection to the switchboard of souls. I'm the magic man.
Yeah, I've got other responsibilities to deal with now. Hey, I've got the morning show. I'm the host of the morning show, the longest running consecutive show. I mean, there's other guys that do daily shows and stuff, but these 2-hour broadcasts and the type of information that I go through, it's the journey I take people on, I think, is pretty incredible and very unique. And probably the reason why we only have a handful of viewers. So just to go back to the description today, there are those who feel that knowledge is power. For me, it can be alienating at times. An early discussion of harmful radiation that surrounds us. I should put also add an early discussion on that. I decided to rename Maggie to Maggie II. It appears the memory banks have been wiped clean. That was for people of yesterday. So let's look at this first one. There are those who feel that knowledge is power. For me, it can be alienating at times. Excuse me. Disgusting. Disgusting.
Okay.
So, yeah, you travel around, you know these things, you learn these things, you show people all this stuff firsthand, like I say. And, you know, and I have no motivation. You know, I basically have set myself up where I'm just retired and I just live my life. I don't want to make any more money than I'm making, you know? Oh, it'd be great. You know, I don't play the lottery, but I mean, in the fantasy world of like, you know, one of those power balls where you win like $250 million. Yeah, that would be cool. I could have some fun with that. But short of some like mega millions, because anything less than that just would kind of mess up your life because it would last for a few years or so many years, but then, you know, I wouldn't have this freedom, you know, that I have right now, you know. And so there's a certain freedom that I have that I like, you know, existence and this program. And yeah, it's kind of disappointing in many respects to see what's happening and how things are occurring. And so having this knowledge and experience is more like for some people that's like, you know, you use that, right? And it's like for me, it's like I'll share it. You know, I'll share the information I have with people. Take it, you know, with a grain of salt if you want to. But one thing about me is that I'm telling you firsthand truths. All right. And as you see, I'll go to the videotape. I'll go right to the source. If it's something that I don't have firsthand on. I'm not going to go to social media and, you know, and parrot some kind of viral, you know, bullshit. And so knowledge, you know, so to me, it's like, yeah, knowing this stuff, sometimes it's could almost work against you because people don't want to hear the truth. They don't want to know this. They don't want to know that you know, they're being bombarded with electromagnetic radiation. It's reducing their life expectancy and could give them cancer and other complications. They don't want to know that. Make them impotent and all that stuff. Why would somebody want to know that? Right? They don't want to understand, you know, they don't want to believe that this is the former United States, that we have irreconcilable differences, even though they know it's to be true. You know, it's called cognitive dissonance, right? The facts are right before your eyes. Well, we'll change it in 2022 and 2024. Change what? Change what? To what? You know, change people. You know, see, the funny thing about politics and why I'm not political anymore is that politicians, you know, we have a polarity, right? And so it's based on ideology. And so when one party takes over, and it's always back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. I mean, I've been saying that for years in my books, my 10 books, so to speak. Let's call it 9 books now, because I'm going to do another book as 10th book, even though I had 11 books, but some of those were incorporated into some of the other books and blah, blah, blah. All right. But I've been writing about this for years, and I wrote all kinds of essays and other kind of stuff like that. But you had, you know, George H.W. Bush, Republican. Bill Clinton, Democrat. George G.W. Bush, Republican. Barack Obama, Democrat. Donald J., Republican. Whatever. The Dementia Joe, Democrat. All right. Back and forth. And Congress has kind of done the same thing. One or the other party has had absolute power, right? And yet, how has your life improved under any of those people? What did we see? Senseless wars in the Middle East, right? Soldiers losing their lives and limbs coming home and, to protect freedom, and finding out what? That they're locked down in their house and they have no freedom? What did they fight for? You see? It's like that line in, that Mel Gibson movie, with the William Wallace thing, where him and the guy from Ireland, my island, right? And he goes, well, what have we been doing all this time? Right? Type of thing. And it's not funny, it's not funny. Why did we die and, and suffer for freedom if we come back and and our freedoms are being, our constitution's being trampled on and the freedom's taken away? And that, like I said, the First Amendment from like the, that they can just say, oh, Section 230, that supersedes the Bill of Rights, the Constitution, the First Amendment. Congress shall make no law. Well, Congress did. They passed this thing. It's not even a law, really, what they did. It's, it's a section of some, whatever. So politics is horsepucky, right?
Gentlemen, you can't fight in here. This is the war room.
It really is. Because all it means is somebody else is in charge. A certain ideology is in charge. It's almost like, it's like, so they take over King of the Mountain, right? Like kids or something. Or let's look at it more like the way I like to look at it. I see government, because it's a corporatocracy, right? It's the corporations. But I see it more as an organized crime syndicate, right? And, street levels of an organized crime syndicate, no matter what it is, you have street level actors, right? Because it's all, all structured, big guys, and then the various different players down to like the street levels. And so some street gang or some whatever protection racket or something weird like that, because that's how government is, right? Even Tip O'Neill, all politics is local, but I mean, that's the whole idea. It goes on, what goes on locally, but it's still one big organized crime syndicate at the top that's currently run by the corporatocracy. And so there's some gang fight for this street corner or this neighborhood, and one gang wins the other one. And it's like King of the Mountain, West Side Story or something, right? Do you see, this is how I see things, so obvious, so plain to see, but other people don't see it that way. And that's why I do these shows, to try to explain it and give you an example that maybe, people can comprehend, right? So it's King of the Mountain, organized crime syndicate. So one party takes over the other party. So what? You still got, the criminals, and the protection racket in the neighborhood. So who cares what party it is? The ideology changes, and I'm king of the mountain now. We're in charge. But your life, what are your life? What does your life change? Well, the guy in power now, he just extended unemployment and gave us $1,400. No, he didn't. They were talking about that last year. Before the election, it was $2,000 was pushed. So if the last guy would have been in, you would have still gotten $2,000. People have they don't pay attention to the facts. No, nothing's been done. Oh, troops are going to be coming out of Afghanistan. Yeah, the last guy was the guy who did that, and it was a big stink about the media was trying to say, "Oh, don't do it." Now it's okay. Nothing important ever changes because the corporatocracy is in charge. It's big tech. It's big pharma. All right? It's big ag. All right? It's the military contractors. Okay? I mean, I could do this every day because there's no reason why we shouldn't. Where is the darn thing?
This evening, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex. The potential for the disastrous rise of misplaced power exists and will...
Okay. There you go. Ike. Say it every day. And we live in a world like this now.
This is Metropolitan Police speaking. Metropolitan Police speaking. All persons are warned to stay off the streets. All persons are warned to stay off the streets.
This is a nightmare. It must be a nightmare.
Anyway, so just to wrap up this show, I think we covered it all. I don't think we'll be talking much about Maggie much anymore. It turns out her memory banks were wiped. So that's that. You, my friend, are being bombarded by death rays. I mean, basically. The Constitution is being trampled upon. We live in the former United States, which is basically being run like an organized crime syndicate. All right. Everything you know is wrong. Everything you know is frickin' wrong. You don't know what you don't know. By the way, one of the most comfortable frickin' shirts, and it's available at TonyCaravanLive.com. There's a link to it. Great solar stuff, which has been powering this bright light in your eye from this power pack. All right. It's available at Great Solar Stuff. And we're still talking about eyes without a face world. And those are cows on top of that thing. Because why? Because to the people at the World Economic Forum, the Great Reset, we're just cattle on their farm. Okay? I think that basically covers it. So, best of luck. Happy, what is it, a Tuesday? I feel like drinking alone. I guess that was the whole idea. It's like, having a drink. If you can't go to a bar, I mean, some bars are open, but, people are probably sit around, a bunch of people with masks on or weird stuff, or you can't do anything. You can't have fun. No fun allowed, right? That's basically the theme, of the current people in charge. No fun allowed. These disunited states. So it's like, yeah, drink alone. Play some music. You know, I smoke a cigar or two. You know, so I don't know. I might do that now. I might walk up. There's a bar up the street, has takeout. I might just take a hike up there, buy myself a, 6-pack or 12-pack. So, and, put that on ice, go outside later on and catch some rays, come back in, have a few cocktails, a few beers, brewskis, some cigars. Just live life. And ignore the crap that's on TV and that they're talking about. Who cares about these people? I can't be bothered with that. Not when there's 19,000 homicides, a year, right? And that the number one leading cause of death in the United States is heart disease. The second leading cause of death is cancer. I can't be bothered with anything they're talking about on the news because they're ignoring that stuff. And they're just telling you things that somehow can promote their special interest or their game, some kind of mind game that they're playing with you to push some kind of thing or divert you. Like I say, it's all that glamour, right? It's like magic and glamour. In other words, deception or misdirection and focusing people, limited minds, simple-minded people in a certain area. Screw that. Have a drink alone, man. Do whatever. Just have fun. Enjoy yourself. If you got a backyard, go out and cop a tan, right? Grow some food. Grow your own food. That's what I do. Retire. Retire. Take care. Cheers. End of stream. As I say.
Elvis has left the building. Thank you and good night.